remotely through Microsoft Teams. Translation facilities are available for this meeting. Please ensure that you have your headsets, if required, which are available at the back of the chamber. Please ensure your microphones are off, and before we begin, I would like to invite Reverend Hugh Stewart to lead us in prayer. Reverend Stewart. Sorry.
Wie gras voor agus ulevianich. Ashinje son mi gat dovoldig in een vaasho. Son een graag iontoch. Ha akut gain. Anna vi kutunjen vi feen Iesu Christ. Jeum si graun Jesi. Son shinje hurig oor pechkunnen. Agus gewaluse toloch pechig. De gaval huket feen. Agus nach hurhochig. Aan het feen vi kostfol vi Christ. Is turus talif shachet. Agus yn aros agus y glors yn hawyr y iesoch ag far cor. Nef. Dianing chasyn y gwyau yn yn fasio. Chlawn fec nielanen. Cho pris o lein. Agus cho gragich lat ffein. Dianing iad am sy chwyd y doi chasyn y gwyau. Dianing na teacherin agus roedd yn oeddym ha cwantas yn joes gachyn y bwyd chwyd y dynnu. Hair son iadsen weer mianochig aan het veen agus aan een fodem aan een geliefdes agus gemigat tolich trevieroch agus de musnochig een washo agus gachwa bianich ne builes in je guye aan ze no per ormach au hener horschijf musnich iad bianich iad agus een washo in je guye Gymig na cogwnion red de hol agus y chym de glore agus gyfyd di hi hen yn is yr horsgain yn hi nach oring an yn hwyr y horsgain agus nach oring i fyr horser falab uain na smw ach a chai chos na chain le ffyr llwch fyr yn wan sgach ni as yn hi sirig son le anamsyn mae ddi mahnas pechgi. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Stewart. So firstly, I would like to highlight some good news to members before we move on to the formal agenda. Hong School celebrated 60 years recently. They commemorated the event with an exhibition created by pupils and composed their own whole school song. Park School. Park School were delighted to receive the second Green Eco Schools flag recently. This represents accreditation for important work they are doing on environmental and climate education. Urca School. Well done to Urca pupils Callum, Rowan and Moran, who were all selected as winners of the West Highland Free Press's Christmas Art Competition. Urca School recently unveiled their new green roof cycle shelter, which was funded by a grant from High Trans Regional Transport Partnership, a project which was also supported by Councillor Ushin Robinson. This facility will encourage more children to cycle to school. Skolnabach. Skolnabach recently made a donation of £1,065 to Bethesda. These funds were raised from various school events over the last few months. Pupils are very grateful to the community who have helped raise this magnificent amount of money. Leverborough Memorial School. When working on their GLIB project, Leverhulme Memorial School found out that the school building was opened 100 years ago. To celebrate this, they created a mini exhibition in the school with old photographs and memoirs from past pupils and staff. It has been such a successful event that they have decided to leave the exhibition up for another term. The Nicholson Institute and Skol Linaclit. Both the Nicholson Institute and Skol Linaclit have recently been recognised by Education Scotland for highly effective practice, with case studies for each shared on the Education Scotland website. Nicholson Institute improving the curriculum for Gaelic medium education, and Skol Linaclit learning for sustainability in practice. Rights-based mobile phone policy. So it's all good work going on in the schools. Just before we move on, I'd just like to send our condolences to the Vice Chair, Councillor Hussain. Hussein, whose sister sadly passed away recently, and we'll send our condolences, Mustafa. So sorry for that. So moving on, please note that the Policy and Resources Committee meeting scheduled for February the 5th, 2025 will consider the Q2 Revenue Monitoring Report, and this will detail reporting on financial information which had been unavailable as part of the November 2024 series due to impacts of the cyber attack. Items 6 and 7 will be taken in private at the end of the meeting, and I am ruling item 6 as urgent to allow this item to be considered prior to the next meeting. A reminder that the meeting is now being recorded and will be made available on the caller's website following the meeting. So we'll start with the minutes of the meeting of the 26th of November 2024 for agreement. Is everyone? Yep, okay, that's fine. Or for approval. Number 2, declaration of interest. Members are asked to declare any interest they have in any items of the agenda. It would be helpful if members express why they are declaring an interest in the items concerned. Members in the meeting, please do so now by pressing your microphone on or remotely through Teams by using the raise hand function. Does anybody have a declaration of interest? Not one that I'd meeting anyway. Okie dokie. Right, so we'll move on to item 3, which is education provision, and this is GLIB 2024, the Leverhulme projects. Item 3 relates to GLIB 2024, the Leverhulme projects. Before I invite Ms. Evelyn Gould-MacLeod to speak to the report and answer any questions, there is a short video presentation on the projects for your consideration. Can you please ensure your microphones are off during this presentation? Thank you.
A new word I am offering you. Will you take the opportunity?
Shot and sell uri hani tavengai. And gavship in Corum. Sir, there's a man over there wanting to ask a question. I can't have a question. But in Potok Piano saw Frank like and Skial do. Jen Fenna has she naked. I shall have Mr. Furna. In Corum, young Fenna.
What does that man say?
Sir, he said, come on, this won't do. This man would have us believe that black is white and white is black. What we want is land. And the question I put to him now is, will you give us the land?
You have asked a straight question. I like a straight question, and I will give you a straight answer. The answer to your question is no, I will not give you the land.
Lord Leverhulme, you have bought this island, but you have not bought us. And we refuse to be bond slaves to any man. We want to live our own lives in our own way. Poor in material things it may be, but at least it will be clear of the factory bell. It will be free and independent.
Give me a chance. Give my schemes a chance. Give the young folk of Lewis a chance.
Then go Corum. Then Corum gan is skemmikin. Then Corum got all Jewish. Now I bought a bed ship and I Johnny the boys. I have seen it getting skemmikin. I seen it getting better.
So, look, there's me from all High Johnson's school shop. Oh, wow. That's so exciting. Hello? Hello? Aveligamishki.
Hello, I see you all right, but I have not a clue what you were saying. I do wish I had gotten a better grasp of Gaelic when I was here in Harris. I do believe it would help you so much in understanding the people.
Misha, happy to not teacher. Nicholas Gordon, Google Frankfurt. A finishing exception, it is culture. To it, collection. Be up and could meet it. Chat, if you look at picture. Hello, if you look at picture.
Right. Are you understanding me now? But how wonderful! You're speaking Gaelic, and this little electric slate has given me an instant translation in English. How wonderful!
Fattenla, en een woord Fattenla, perfecta la Navarro. En non per Fattenla, la vierce spak voor granten. Ik kreeg van Ratajanen, van Tarverschjekken mani. En een woord Fattenla, en een woord Fattenla, en een woord Fattenla, perfecta la Navarro. Van smurgen in je zakken, van massa biermenaan. Bedding spuitje genokken galit. Jij kan pop aan is mova. Er een woord Fattenla, er een woord Fattenla, er een woord Fattenla. Tu beste la Navarro.
Ah, Lewis, undeveloped expanses of moorland, surrounded by the boundless wealth of the sea. A bubble of gold in every wave, ripe for the picking.
Slaantje, Lord Lever.
Slaantje. Susie. Okay. All right, thanks, Evan. That was excellent. Actually, that's really pretty good. Really good quality. Yeah, so that's really good. So, does anybody have any questions for Evelyn about Geolibral? All right, we'll move on. I'd just like to congratulate you for the work you've done. It was excellent. I mean, it's really good. I mean, it's well impressed. I mean, budding stars, all of them. So, sorry, Donald.
Kapel niet graag in je mina we wou en committee tjidder en hoort u ja wanneer gekeurd Evelyn's skippen is hoe het in je hopelijk gekruist en de kans kunnen uit dus nog drukken nog kuro zien nog de Gilip lievertjes jullie niet op zijn in haast nu hij is een kolom en een hanike wipe u dat stormen gekeur kost hij is samen thuis kuro de farmen, ik kan ze maar eentje als ik me in je lips niet lente.
Francis.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just wanted to add my congratulations to all involved, and I note that you are looking at the theme for 2025, and obviously the necessity for funding from external sources in the future. Just wondering how sustainable the model is. Obviously, there were a lot of centenaries starting with the war and the Eilean. Moving forward, I think it would be a pity to dilute the product by scrabbling about for centenaries. But I just wondered what your thoughts were there.
Thank you. Yes, we're looking. The beauty of the GLIP project, the theme can be as open and as wide. And obviously, the last number of years we had our centenaries. We're now going to be moving on to perhaps something else. We've kind of had a few initial meetings, and we're thinking our topic, just to add a bit of humour back in, would be Siarad dan gather. So I hope the translation is working well for that. we've got a wealth of local stories, humorous stories, nicknames in our communities, as was on the BBC several weeks ago. So there's a lot of potential we could have with that, and through drama, making just things a wee bit maybe more light-hearted than they've been over the last few years. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to funding. So I have not so far this year started looking at external funding. The Scottish Government were very, very supportive to us. So perhaps that's an avenue we can look at moving forward. Whether it's going to be annual or whether we might have to take a gap until next year, we'll just have to wait and see. But as you'll see from the survey results, there's it's been so well received within our schools and within our communities. And you'll see from the survey results, our community want to see more events like that. And if we're in a position in education to be able to support that, we will.
And Evan, do you think there's any opportunity for sort of private funding, companies funding, or outside? I mean, is that an avenue we could look at?
I think we're going to have to explore every potential board na Gaelic, perhaps, even though I was unsuccessful last year obtaining funding from them. But I think we'll have to get quite creative in who we are sourcing funding from. Yeah, okay. I would welcome anybody
any ideas,
any rich benefactors.
Anybody's got some money, aye. Councillor, that's it, Duncan. Councillor McInnes.
Behaal Lamine Kujak, wat we konische krijgt negra. Nuppet woorden ga je goedestjagen zo. Agus gemoor ha schaldling en je njarste heste kanste en akin. Gehaald egalit agus sanjelsinje tot fiem. U de jeemse boerinken as gaan en se kulture haking. Agus ha magadidu bevinken en u ha clown. Fucht de Scott en 16 hillen nefat. Kus agus an halagus hat a fin as a Gaelic agus sulemish kwat de meunje gegien so soten of ik sin kwat de sin jogin ha sin de haretje lesige mulingen kei agus as a skide show agus nimmel lekker dat sin fiemmerken sulmi kere so ischen plat ma for een jannegat fiem gan de Gaelics gan de goinstof gan Comhairle culture agus gaharad sé béhe chainstach gakin nooit ri haun agus vitalig barachgóg sé gan sculpture agus gaharad go me at de clach in hana agus de fistach gasin je fine des van a reinsach ha schalting een halagus is huet duin nach ro gali kietje da agus at de kuat kre barach gan show wat de firmach kun dollar agus fins nogus maar gewoonlijk kunnen de sin taich gemoord gan shos tassen a show dollar agus ha schalting go charter wat boord na gali kun taich geleket wat gun je se hier da agus a foto niet kun je wel hu schon meunje gegingen $1.
Try again. Thanks, Duncan. Thanks, Francis.
Sorry, I just wondered a bit. Was there some material in our own 50th anniversary?
Get a good laugh with that, yeah. Right, okay. We'll move on if there's no more questions. Thanks for all the work you've done, and the pupils especially. It's been fantastic. So thanks, Evelyn. Right, we'll move on to item 4. Get my glasses, which you can read the thing. Right, so schools IT infrastructure plan for 2024-2020 to 2028. This report at item 4 relates to the schools IT infrastructure plan for 2024 to 2028. Before I open this item for discussion, Mr. Ian G, you speaking, Gordy? Mr. Ian G. Smith will speak to the report and answer any questions. Thanks, Gordy, man.
The purpose of the report is to inform members of the challenges in meeting our obligations with regard to enhancing learning and teaching through the use of digital technology. The main challenges are due to reductions in funding allocations for IT infrastructure, equipment and digital devices for schools since 2018, and that's ongoing through 2023, right up till the current financial year. Details of this are in section 2.1 of the report. This is combined with the Scottish Government, who have to date not honoured their 100-day pledge that the SNP will roll out a new programme to deliver into the hands of every school child in Scotland a laptop, Chromebook or tablet to use in school and at home. There was 13 million initially allocated for this by the Scottish Government, and this would have meant around about 100,000 for the Comhairle if this fund was distributed. Ultimately, the funding was reallocated to Connecting Scotland to give to low-income families, and then was actually reallocated elsewhere in the current financial year to meet deficits in other programmes. It is unclear if this funding has been deferred or whether it's been removed altogether. A direct result of this reduced funding was the reshaping of the planned schools IT refurbishment programme, and only 5 schools got an IT refurbishment during the period in the last capital programme 2018 to 22. Scotland Rue, Ballavany, Siri Scott, Dallyborough and Park were the only 5. The Comhairle did roll out digital devices to secondary pupils across the Western Isles. This happened, had started before, and more were issued during COVID and after COVID. The early laptops issued are now in need of replacement and are coming to end of life. There is currently no funding available or anticipated to enable this replacement programme to get underway. The number of secondary pupil laptops still working and operational when funding becomes available, hopefully in the 2028 to 2033 capital programme, is likely to be very low indeed, unless the Scottish Government revisits its pledge. This situation is carrying a crisis level in the Nicholson Institute, where they have been unable to issue laptops to the new intake of S1 pupils. This is partly due to the age of the devices, but is exacerbated by the number of laptops being damaged by pupils. The department have procured and are now rolling out new infrastructure for the delivery of IT in schools to counteract the impact of the reduced funding. We are renewing the switches and the Wi-Fi access points in schools and have funded this from the revenue carry forward of underspends in 2 of the last 3 financial years. This is a more cloud-focused approach with lower cost IT hardware, especially in primary schools. The department is currently introducing Chromebooks in primary schools and progressing the setup and management of a Google tenancy through Glow. This new approach also includes working with Google and Tablet Academy to improve and upskill our teachers in the delivery of digital education and learning in the classroom. This approach is intended to maximise the impact of the Comhairle investment in digital technology when it arrives in the classroom. It is important to acknowledge that the new approach and the current investment plan for schools' IT infrastructure is unsustainable financially without future injections of funding by the Scottish Government for digital devices for pupils and a more realistic allocation from the Comhairle capital budget in 2028. Without this funding, it will be challenging for the Comhairle to meet its obligations regarding the future delivery of digital learning and teaching in the Western Isles schools. The Comhairle's obligations are outlined at page 3 of Appendix 1 to this report. Appendix 2 outlines the focus of the funding remaining available to schools' IT section from now until the end of the 27-28 financial year. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Ian. Does anybody have any questions, Francis?
A sort of combination of questions and observations. I think, you know, making a promise to give everybody a device is it's very much time bound to a day. Suppose every child had in the island or the islands or nationally had a computer on a Tuesday. By the Wednesday, some would have lost them, broken them, left them at home, because the fact is that if you were inclined to forget your books or your jotters or mislay your books and your jotters, you'll do the same with your laptops, and that's just what has happened over time. And obviously, as you alluded to there, when a year group leave and they take them in to reallocate them to the next year group, there's some lost, there's some broken, there's some unavailable, and so it goes on, and it eats into it that way. And time is taken up, obviously. You're say an English teacher, because that's what I was myself. You're not a specialist. You tell them to switch on their computers at the beginning of the lesson and some aren't working, and you don't know how to deal with that. And where once upon a time you could have just handed out a bit of paper, you eat into your teaching time trying to get the thing going. Schools technicians do a fantastic job, but they're under pressure. This adds to their pressure, I'm sure, on a daily basis. I think the idea of moving to something where the storage of the work that the child has been doing it can be then taken up on another device at home rather than moving the device between school and home is probably I would have thought that the way to go on that, and then, you know, the really targeting the low income families where there isn't a computer. Unlike during the pandemic where everybody needed their own device in the home all day long for their work, you know, that pressure to have a device per person perhaps isn't as great as it was during the pandemic. So, and the other one, I know it's a contentious one, the same people who maybe break, lose, forget their classroom device aren't breaking, losing, forgetting their mobile phone. And I know we've spoken in here, and they've spoken nationally and internationally even about, you know, not allowing young people to have mobile phones. In some ways, it's easier to say to a responsible higher class, take out your phone and take a screenshot of that rather than everybody going online. I know we've spoken about it in the past. Is there the capability there of using own devices in the school setting rather than trying to get everybody another device? I mean, there's a lot there. I could go on, but I won't. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Francis. Yeah, there's a lot to be digested there. Maybe that is an option. You know, it changes the dynamics of mobile school phones in schools, and so it's another angle. Is there anything you want to add, Claudie? Yep.
Yeah, I think what Francis is referring to is the bring your own device idea. We have looked at it. It's not really something we're wishing to take forward because of the complexity, and we don't really think it's something that I think local authorities across the country aren't really engaging with it. Ian might have some more information on that.
Yeah, I agree, Francis. It is an issue, but bring your own device it comes with a lot of its own problems, and we can't see a way forward with that.
Okay, Angus, do you want to come in?
Thank you very much indeed. First of all, I'd like to say thank goodness I'm not in the class. This sounds like a nightmare to me. But it's clear that this authority and every other authority in Scotland is having real difficulty in dealing with this situation. And I'm not sure, I don't know the detail, but I'm not sure that the government built in a sufficiently robust plan to contain what happened, you know, once the digital devices stopped functioning properly, as indeed that is what's happening. I'm always being chased by my daughter to keep changing my laptop, and I'm very reluctant to do it. But I do realise it has to be done. So when funding a programme like this, the first flush of funding allows you to buy all that you require, but you must have continuing funding in order to ensure that the progress with the retention of the devices for pupil use continues. And a lot of the issues to which Francis has alluded are just the fact that the devices just are beyond use any further. What possibility, I was wondering, Chair, is there that the Scottish Government will enhance the funding for this particular project going forward? Because if they don't, I can only see that the situation in our schools is going to get worse.
Thanks, Angus. Sorry. Thanks. Right. Does anyone else want? Councillor McLean.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for this report. And it looks to me as if it all stems down to your conclusion, yeah, in the fact that it's apparent, you say, that what is going on is unsustainable financially unless we get future monies from the Scottish Government. My first question is, how close are we to finding? I'm going back over 10 years, and yeah, you were then we were upgrading the ITs in all schools, and it was wonderful to get new laptops, new IT in schools. And we were looking forward then to improving upon that to all schools. And that was the aim then, and it would be fantastic to see. And I fully understand that you need what Councillor McCormack has said, funding in order to upgrade these. But my question is, how close? Before I go on to the question, is one of the key ones, and you mentioned in the report is that you're going. I think it's in 6.3 that you're looking at upgrading the smart boards. The smart boards today, if I'm correct, when I left 10 years ago, is actually the best blackboard that you get in schools. It is absolutely essential in schools for teachers to have a workable, good smart board. Well, we've seen it here. If we don't have it, we're not conveying information. How close are you to the stage in which the IT solutions within our schools are becoming so obsolete? And I'm using that word obsolete because they're getting that way, that they become unsuitable for the times.
We are lucky in a way that we've invested our underspends in the last 2 or 3 years on what we would call the critical items. The switches are being replaced, the Wi-Fi access points are being replaced, and we've slowly been replacing the old smart boards with screens like these in every classroom. And we were actually lucky that this was built into the WISP project. Smart boards are being replaced by those screens as part of the life cycle maintenance in the WISP schools. So we're with the other schools, we're pretty much almost there, I think, with replacing them with screens. Yeah. So we have the basics in place, and the switches and the Wi-Fi, we have a 10-year agreement in place starting this year. So we have that covered. It really the main thing is devices, and probably particularly teacher laptops, I think, is the one that we've most critical for us. I think a lot of them are out of date. Yeah. So they're the ones that would be the first call to upgrade before you even think about pupil laptops in secondary. The teacher ones are the important ones.
I agree. The teacher wants to lock into the smart boards, so they're almost essential. Right? Yeah. So that is a.
That's right. That's right. And these devices were bought in their hundreds, so they're now aging out in their hundreds as well.
Yep. Okay. It's a real challenge. I mean, I think maybe it's a letter required, and send into Scottish Government and just see just to push the agenda, because it's critical. Without them, we're really in trouble, you know. So I'll just let Norrie and what's.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Ian, for the report. Going forward, I think it's fairly obvious, whether we like it or not, that technology in schools is going to be it's going to be ever more. I wouldn't say invasive. It's supporting pupils through their learning now, whether it be through smartphones or tablets or laptops or whatever. So I think I would imagine that the best solution is for somebody to have a device that they can take through the school with them, rather than to be handing it out from class to class to the next class coming through. My question to Ian would be, how serious are the implications for cybersecurity on the devices and the logging in and bringing in? I would imagine bringing in outside devices would be a serious no-no going forward, given our own security implications that we've had with the cyber attack a year last November in the Comhairle. How much work is this for your department, Ian, in keeping cybersecurity at a premium? You know, I mean, does the school's IT infrastructure need to be kept separate from the general IT infrastructure of the Comhairle? Or is this just something that we're looking at to incorporate as one IT across the whole Comhairle? And will there be additional costs and additional work for the IT department within the Comhairle of ensuring security because of the amount of access to the internet by various devices across the school spectrum? I'm sure this is an ongoing concern for the department. And if you could maybe enlighten us as to where we are with security and what the implications would be, you know, for going forward with devices in the classrooms, which are an inevitability, I would suggest.
I think I'll ask Ian Campbell to answer this one, but we, all right, that's fine, because we've taken extra steps, but Ian can go through that.
Yes, even if we were one department, there'd still be two networks because of the requirements of both sections. What was the other question?
Just about security.
There's not enough, so I'll have to switch off on mic. Who's got a mic? Yep.
How difficult it is to remain secure when you've got so many devices accessing the school's intranet and the internet itself. You know, I imagine that, you know, given what we've had to deal with security, you know, this is paramount going forward. Is it much of a headache for the department to keep secure and keep everybody with 1,000 devices going forward, you know, accessing the internet? I mean, I imagine there's additional work there in keeping everything secure.
There is, and we need to keep everything up to date, and we've got to keep in mind what can possibly happen. So we need to have all our backups and immutable backups and all that kind of stuff in place.
Okay, all right. Francis, Councillor.
Thank you. Just one final point I wondered about. I think that the first time I was aware of a school with laptops or devices for all the pupils, it was in Eilean, and this was going back to 2005-06, and these devices were sponsored by a local industry, namely the whisky industry. Is there the possibility here, with a lot of investment coming into the islands, for sponsorship of digital devices by some of these large multinational companies coming into our spaces?
Don't know the answer to that question. Does anyone else? No. I mean, it's something you'd have to investigate. We'd have to look at it. We'll have to look at everything now, to be honest. You know, any opportunity where we can get cash, certainly worth investigating. Absolutely. It's almost a situation where we almost have to prioritise, because you can't go asking everyone for everything. You have to almost prioritise and say, well, which are the most important things for us, and those are the things we go out to look for private investment from, if necessary. We can't fund it through government and through public means, because as we've already said, without them, you know, the effect on teaching and the effect on pupils is you know, is immeasurable. So we really have to try and get some sort of solution here. So, will you just come back in? Yep.
Yeah, in terms of funding, even if we get external funding, devices have a sort of life cycle, and we need to plan for future funding. If we do it all over again and get another set of devices, we need to plan for 5 years' time for the next lot. The only local authority, I think Midlothian Council, have done that. They've rolled them out to every single pupil's got a device brand new. But what their council has also done is they've given them an award for 5 years' time, exactly the same amount, to redo it. So they're planning in perpetuity. I think if you are going to roll out to everybody again, we would need to have a plan in place to fund it in perpetuity.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Ian. There's a lot to think about. That's something we'll have to maybe have a chat about that one and see what I think we can do. Right, if there are no more questions, does everybody agree to note the report? Yes, but a lot to think about, certainly. Right, we'll move on to item 5, which is the Gaelic Secondary School, the feasibility study and preliminary consultation. This report details information in respect of the commitment in the Callers Gaelic Plan 2023 to 2028 to examine the merits of Gaelic standalone schools and to consider a proposal to conduct a feasibility study and preliminary consultation. And Mr. Donald MacLeod will speak to the report and answer any questions. Thanks, Donald.
Taik. Hanaik seo Eilean nu warach taik is an scrúdach mína trocha dhéanú agus táiseach Comhairle le áicrí le parantin le scoltin de sé choirsnach. Ma dhéon plana is an gurras fellum ag ardíre le fellum tra bhíanna Gaelic is tíochach as na Eilean in a níar. Has scríb just an aish gafis is nice gavel show Kianch the planet can and Gaelic Comhairle fiche sa trí go fiche sa hoch agus go má fas plan a réinealach corpora chóirle fi ga go fiche sa seach sa fisacha ma dhéon sin as an aisk ag na buin ag cé point go hin agus ag sia point go hin as an aisk. Agus a rééis sin an növer ha rein fölum agus sef sin chláine gúirí opera dhéanú is an scrúta go dhéanú ar a chúspar ha seo agus beach an hort agus scrúta go dhéanú na corman ha roin is an opera seo liatacha. As na tics leis an opera sin níos a dhéanú mar ha go mich corman sin cónlarí plan mar seo is an ardacha clárach scóil colin agus a curriculum agus goharad tuairt barach corman da gáidrí halarach cúsich an dríachgol agus an orsin sin tuairt liadacha cúspar an cianta sin economy cúideach. As na tic sgaltóir op bha mar ha tachart as na hardscoiltin ac yn harri sin na hilanin agus chóla sin bucan ma dhéon sin mar ha aniu as na níochgan bha chai a léfag ag torsacha chaniu a seo. Ach yn hath y cwydioch go gadachich gan oring baroch gyfer i ianu na'r Comhairle ma dhéon taich go hort de canan Gaelic agus Checkas Gaelic agus aydach chi oicri as a chanan. As yn hadis i'r daich het blione fi to taich de ffilm trefyna Gaelic agus ha a Comhairle slí fôr ianu goharach a hyf bwnsgolgin agus scolarich le garas yn Gaelic yn eisiau a chwla coesnoch agus corman de farant yn tuig ffilm trefyna Gaelic as a chwla coesnoch as na hilanin. Agus a chai opera ianu rona seo tort súl sgol Gaelic nio garas sgol Gaelic as na hilanin va sin gymatríca tort súl bwnsgolgin yn hosioch. Ach a harránsach sin a ianu has sin ficin gal coesnoch yn y giwri Gaelic a chamal as na coesnoch yn ac a hyn agus gyfel garas yn ffilm trefyna Gaelic gymag cwtmoch gan y sgolgin yn y dalaking agus ha parent yn y giwri sin a chamal as na bwnsgolgin. Ach a corman Jeffrich acing a hyf art sgolgin. Agus as ni giwri taich as yn lorach taich yn yw ffabail is son Eindachich gynnyd sin sgrwydach minidach y ienw yn y cwsbar a sio, cwrach di coesnoch yn cwrach di sgolgin o'i cri parent yn fain biech yn rydyn had y sŵlachich is o'n ffilm trefyna Gaelic ac yn ardira. Agus rhansach y ienw yn y doi yn y gyd sy'n sio ysdiachich. Dyn y doi yn y siar as y seich as y fel y Comhairle agus yn y corm yn y hacin dys y ienw leis yn cwsbar a sgrwydach is o'n garas ffilm ardira. As ni'n tic sy'n cydioch gada fi'ch corman na loib, gyda gafi cydioch gymryd dŵlan agus diliad dys yn ti'n mynd i'r ymholisi a sio, agus fysyn ni gyori dyn y cynjoch gymryd corm rawsach eich cydioch gan y diliad dys yn agus na dŵlan i gyda gafi iawn, agus lorach doian yw yfr yn ffain ti'n mynd i'r ysyn. Ha ffysig as yn aisg mae un cydioch gan y hyfryn as ni sŵlach eich sio stiach eich sy'n opera ianu. Has nid iwrydus yn y fysach yr ysdiach go realtus na halaba, a lorach taich aragyd is son gianu yn ober hasio, sas ni'n has dy fehu is son ffragard mae un fain yn aragyd asyn. So han aes gyswylwch yw mae yw'n yn aragyd gynnydych sy'n nwars yn cet is son yn ober lianting yr ard. Has ni sŵlwch yw mae yw'n yn haich aragyd agos cet ffobail, gyn horsich yn opera sio as a farst, sga rwyat hon ystairych, agos gyn i'ch aisg yr as go bail as yn hwlting, ac yn yn cymryd sio as yn hwlting, is son ffysig y hord mae un rwyd y lorach, ysgrwydach minidioch, agos ych o Comhairle leis a choesnoch, agos na bail yn warsin, smean i hord y de no i had y giwri dianting yr ard leis a folisi. Sa'n tolig cystion sy'n mi hord fo bail mae un yn cwsbar.
Thanks, Donald. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor, Councillor, you're in the head. Sorry, Ray. Councillor McLean. Sneaky one.
Thanks, Chair. It's good that you're looking forward.
For change. I'm moving to the left. I'm kind of, you haven't shaken.
Thanks, Mr. MacLeod, for this report. It's a very welcome report to some of us who have been advocating for a secondary, as Gaelic secondary in Stornoway or in our community for quite a number of years. I think my colleague up there, Mr. McKeever, will back me up in this as well, in particular. The report is good, it's welcome. and it's truthful as well. And thank you for being so truthful in it as well. I like to look at section 6.3, in which you mention at the end of it that although good work has been done, and I would agree with that, it's commendable the work that has been done in Gaelic medium in schools. It's commendable the way the authority went forward with Gaelic medium. But in my opinion and another opinion, it only went halfway. In other words, it went as far as primary 7. It did not go into the secondary. And that has been a result is, in some of our opinions, and I'm sure it will be taken up at the Gaelic committee as well, is that it did not strengthen the Gaelic in the older pupils, where we were wanting it to, so that it could then come into the community. The more you strengthen the Gaelic in the top secondary, then obviously it is, and we can ask for your observations on that, Mr. MacLeod, it will strengthen it within the community because it gives more emphasis to the Gaelic language. But you mentioned there that at the end of that, at 6.3, that the provision has been inconsistent, fluctuating, and heavily reliant on specific staff deployment in each secondary school. And that is true because some of us have a generation of youngsters coming through and in the process of going through, and they come out of the Gaelic at a primary 7 level, go into the Nicholson, and it is for no result of what the Nicholson is doing. They haven't got the teachers for them to have it in subject choices. In other words, if they go into S1, they go into a geography class, it's English, because there is no provision for a teacher in geography. The same can happen in chemistry, the same can happen in physics, the same can happen in science, and so on and so forth. So there's obviously a problem there. Can I say that the focus should be on the research that's going to be done as to the availability of teachers? That's crucial. But secondly, I would say that it should be a different campus. Some people will say, well, we could save money by actually putting a secondary into a Gaelic school into the Nicholson. I would say that you should not. I would say that it should be separated away from in a campus on its own right. But that's my own opinion.
Yeah, that'll be for the
So,
study.
but I say thank you very much for it. But I would say in doing the research into it, is that going to be a focus as well? That is on the teachers, the availability of teachers.
Thank you on the question. I mean, kind of a grag more. Ha op. Ik ga me guri telegraag zo raast. Gal op 4 jaar tager dat is een hard sculpture. Ik guess gaan jullie never een nice search en hoe kun je nu kians die een oper hanne teacher en kun je generaas dat is een hard sculpture. Ha de gene op 4 jaar dus een garrison een haak, is een korm een haak. A gaat jullie dus een Comhairle re logo proch a ha filante as a gaan en filante gilioris en chuckers gonna kusper en art school. I kire a frakrach is on jiachin in de chistenis en genashin te kujoch. Agus hashin en jes vi ma kian si faravel dinje koper as na helanin as din sculpture hacking ek wel teacheren a ha filante gilioris a gaan en son kusper jakisk. Gaskel I skol dorschen gan son shin son kialan art sculpture de hele farvel teacher nakin yon kuch de sculpture nella geitach chakis kusperen traviana Gaelic a gan is in frakker dat a goede seiger nio is on a goede kusbar. Agus ham ik gendigen in de point in de hoeke meester MacLeod in rast ha bi is nu zuliger gemeer waar zo tot de steg oper kiant die teacheren agus larak teacheren le can and have feeling that Gilioris on Jack is gonna kusper and Gaelic as a skull. I guess forget Jenny Screwtig in a teacher and hacking met ha. I guess feeling as a hat. I guess Dana Doyen, you know, garrison of a gakin, your son teacher and hard to stech, your trinike teacher and son opera as a garrison show. I guess Kujoch be a Screwtig a gall now, Dash or skull before show V, cab catch before Gavi. De mar go pricha kian sin sculpture na hacking met ha. So sin nasin guri scrútach leis scrútach mína trocha seo is an feineach déine dó in a sear policy leanting art. Agus hic sin ras go an níos scrútach hic a fistracha sin ras go bail son larach slíar art.
Thanks, Tom. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank
There's
you.
a few people here.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, it's essential that a feasibility study is carried out. I mean, when we look at the situation of Gaelic throughout the country, in fact, and you know, there's great strides being made in Glasgow, Edinburgh, places like that, and Gaelic medium and so forth. But you know, it's always been an anomaly that the heartland of Gaelic does not have a Gaelic school, and it's essential. And you know, at this time, you're not going to turn around and say, well, okay, we've got to build a school the size that will take 600 pupils or something like that. The numbers will come in time, and that, there's no doubt about that. But it's essential for the future. In fact, there was something on the radio just recently, and Councillor McLean actually touched upon it, with the numbers of Gaelic teachers that are coming through are not the numbers that are required. And something's got to be addressed at that. I know that doesn't have, you know, it doesn't affect this particular report, but that at the end of the day it will. So there's no doubt about it. It is required. The actual decision that will be taken after this feasibility study as to where it is, it's not really important at this time. It's important that this school gets off the ground and that it really is the heartland of Gaelic. Yeah.
Councillor. Oh, sorry, do you want to come back?
I mean, tiksud had a hokel the tachetly sculpting Gaelic on the uterus and ach. When a hilen in yeartje friech, I guess policy in Comhairle for horsich film to be in a Gaelic and horsich she Gaelic as a whole skull. I guess she is say you as a Welsh in rast. Ach as you catch as an ice show, I guess an opera nie so wie tachet mara. Nachal shin liataching Corman as a chan and Gilior Gaharach is on Chistinison, I guess Kianchri Oper a stay faculty skull, I guess an economy. Marahasa Yuchas, so ha Sean I'm Hines Minach, I guess I'm not going to be Bailis Minach Kujoch, Screwed Yanu, Deutsche Friech, Taika Hortana Hanan, Akira Art Skull. I guess I'm your quality should the hood Bail me in shin.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Crichton.
Appellate, near Carol, near Lino, Valk, and a committee accu. I can make good fudge and a principle. An ice show, son. Art school, through the cosh, as Neheran, man hoort builera, en jottes aan nach roamel voor een blionchen moer, ik krie in Jelan, ach wat taikul en een garik, ach premies glutig zo ik een maat doing uit Vlaams of zo, in histe hakkens, zo'n heuv univers, de ha shoto kioge gaan een budget nakin, een heuv kawape. As have budget in Wagawa, son reskull, which in Doyain Arigadur, on a realtus or son reskull show, Blionas Joy Bliona, now Vilchin Govi, a Garach Shervation as a budget in son skull shock with a hosh. And you listen, they see a heck, the cook, colon and donations, quashu, will listen find Barok Garrick at the son arena sculpture show. Sculpting Gaelic for Bliona go Bliona. Ach a femi rousach with Bians Fims and we countjoch nach Helshin go we doch how mach is Shervation Elle is Skake will I can sculpture with cosh.
I mean, kind of is that gra. I guess ha an kist in a wish gemak kutrmoch. This is around so the Yanu. I guess goya in is Czech. Gaharach, manage gra mayin capitalist and tosh skull. I guess koskish is on Kamal skull rich. Has any Yanu around so bishin tersul it say you in a wish is on ne doyen Jeffrey to Czech. I guess for the Czech could joch korach live real na halapa mayin. dóin in bhís lara agus an teich go hort. Goharad teich torsach í dhéanú agus teich is an garas mí a chamala dul. Channe duine gin giúí séochu fer a dhéime sin garíon dhéanú an na budget in éile is an seo stéocha gus ní nachas gré seo chom in bhís hortaisteach is an na garas in nach in fás agus dhéanaan is nearstal. Agus ha mí nachas sin déanú rántacha seo go fracar a céistin in bhís go ide go bheith bail constal slíar ar de dhéanú agus firí sin isteach.
Okay, thanks. Convener was next, I think. Some people just switch off their mics there, yeah, just so I can let him in. That's it. You're in. Oh, you were in. You switched it off. Yeah. You're switched it off. You're in.
Ge tapalaise carach agus tapalaise son náis go seoch ar bealú nu a sin cutfáidead sé chanig gré lá cutramach seos lá jachtí or gohheising le fecin molla a seoin ar bealú gohfuilis dóthir seo ránach son fecin nuringa artscol víes na helan no sé an leos no stjórnavag ach sé séiste hagam sogus sam smeach go rúta gémas víri an go má saljad es an náis agus es a ránach nach hal dói et halu trógad súrig aine an project a seo chu dhird man a hel a ragid univas varach go tín bon a realtas. Chael dói an na súrig an seo dhéanú na seo hir a dhird gon na ide man hel univas varach go tín seach. Chan nurig an dhéanú leis na budget an hacín rásta sé budget an roiine nölam ha fulug bliona neu bliona. Fín se georí fengnis a ránsacha gynnig go gealtanas vájad, bórialtas na halapa gymí aragid a varach riöting ar sean skol, art skol galig an a leos. Cha bín college am dois mí man a hexing sin an a skrivag gynnig in efas a varach. Or cha bhí féim sa mí a ránsacha seo dhéanú man a helsing dog an gealtanas. Man hoort me hij dois mí an nuring in dhéanú leis na budget na hagin a chamicu fáidead am so go céim chutarmach a seo agus am a gálasrúten van hónliche kal mac lénig gracu joch ma dhéin áún luchtsegisk hí nóchas gnádig ma hiigigus skol gnádig ga nádu de skolan an bhg dorsteach an tsegisk tar mí an galig cujoch am I guntoch gomór chabachór skola seo hí a lárach skoli knekol bechór ga hí a lárach úr es a bhile seach hí an húsdeich skol eile cuáte go mór an náisce seo.
I mean, gynnych yr eisiau da eisiau gras, mae'n hwrt mi'r anna sio gydwch ha yn y fesio project chocho gytrmoch agos ha sy'n yr ha cwmwr ag a fi acyn le realtas na halwpa mae yen ym polisi a sio agos ha sy'n yw sŵlach a ffysach y fa chien gael sy'n dog ein yn haig arag gyda son y rawsach ag i ianu agos ciantu sy'n gydwch a sy'n y ffysglag yn art yn cwmwrach leis y realtas mae yen yn y fesio son yn project a hort gobi agos ffemi a mi gadwch yr ydych graag y ffeim sy'n y fi y loib ffracr dy rawsach i'r hica go bail yn y satir ar dys afliwna sy'n naim di chech agos a mi gyndach y cydwch mae yen lwch goproch agos masyn i giori gymi ysgol a sio genw ardys fa fi mi teacher na fa fi na loib gopr as ysgol agos bys ni dyrd sŵl tron y rawsach i'r plan y trinigech plan y marachanat recruitment is on lwch goproch o hordystech fych ffracroch son fi tart ysgol yr ard agos ciantu sy'n de curriculum ha sgol y giori fi chacysg sy'n ceistel a hag yma cwtrmoch son y rawsach eich Fyswch asyn i ffain yr ast asyn i sŵlach eich gyffeim yn curriculum ysgol y fi gyma ciant di sy'n economy na helanin yn economy agos yn nôbyr a ha o'i gri y lorach y ffag al sgol a fysac yn gael gysyn i lorach tor lwch goproch sy'n hun le i'r yn jyffrys dy fi ffilwnt ys a chanan a tor corym yn y chien le fi ffilwnt ys a gaelig ciant di lwch operella agos chestyn ys ala hag o'i gri so sy'n gyrig yn y cainioch gymi y rawnsag at o'r sŵl, y deiswrs curriculum chor ysgol fi chacysg, agos yn orsyn, deimar y fysyn y cian ysdech rys yn economy, agos na corym yn y gorega dy goe crin y hilanyn. So I'm not going to frackert education. Ach, as you get to innovish gavi hokutrmachlische project.
Francis, I think. No, you were next. I've got the list. You were next. I've got the order. Don't worry. Can switch off the mics, guys, please. I've got everybody in order.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm quite happy to speak, although I
we're
take
not.
your word that I
Yeah,
would
we're not using that mic system anymore. We're good. I'll follow everybody because it just gets confusing.
Thank you very much. I certainly welcome this report, and I think some of the issues that have been brought up about recruitment and sustainability are ones that are faced currently. I think it's important to note that a great deal has been done in terms of secondary Gaelic medium. As has been said, it's been very dependent on specific staff in each secondary school. I can point to a time, I think about 5 years ago, when the S1 and S2 pupils at that time had 10 of their subjects through the medium of Gaelic, and that was, a commendable position to be in, but difficult to sustain. I think it would be much easier to sustain that in a Gaelic, particularly a new school, which I think would have an attraction for staff coming who would feel if they were coming to specifically a Gaelic school. In terms of the senior phase subjects, obviously, if you are trying to cater for Gaelic medium and non-Gaelic medium exam classes, it's very difficult to maintain the two in the same school for staffing numbers. If you had your separate school, and the presumption would be that it would be in through the medium of Gaelic, so that class would be sustainable and you'd be able to take it forward. But I think one of the main things, or the two main things I would say would be, I would back up what Councillor MacLean said. It would be very important that it was a separate campus in order to instill that ethos, that it wasn't just in these specific classes which were taught through the medium of Gaelic that Gaelic would be used, but in the building as a whole. It's difficult to do that if you are the minority group, and therefore I think it would be very important to have a separate campus. In terms of, I think one of the main things, there's point 6.3, 4, 5, 6, there's discussion about the senior phase exam courses. I would say we need to be making a plea to the SQA. I know this is off our remit, but I think it's really important to ensure that the Gaelic exams, fluent Gaelic exams, are brought up to date. At the moment, for instance, if you were studying higher English, you can answer a media question. We need to see that in Gaelic as well, because let's face it, the Gaelic media has expanded hugely since these exams were established. They haven't changed much.
Yeah.
We need to say to the SQA, you need to be looking at changing the content and the courses to make these exams more attractive and these courses more attractive to our young people. And I would say that's got, a big bearing on that difference of 20%, over 20% between those taking higher English and those taking Gaelic medium, higher Gaelic. Thanks.
Okay. Do you want to come back?
I'm again the issue that I graag is a bia kutrmach is on around the Brian in SQA kujach me in African to me ha tenisulige at Jiachin. It kujach from a curie rachro bulach as a hishjaku ach ha kutrmach the shock kujach she Channishin Yuri Howl Corman Loch Gausaki as a chan and Machin Steach Skull Gaelic son Ogria Lianting Film Treviana Gaelic. Channishin Yuri and Heilshin Corman Loch Gausaki as a Scoltinella, I guess famous in Shinneglach, Kujach Sanker Shinya Kamal Gaelic Marchan and his son of Hulletine, Harris in a hill and Channishin Sulach Gestat Gaelic as a Scoltinella Shekels in Sulach Steach Garis Film Treviana Gaelic on an art skull.
So, right, who's next? Angus. Can I just say, can you keep it related? If you're going to make a comment, keep it related directly to this, the school. Otherwise, we'll drift away, and with another 6 people who want to speak. So, just try and keep it related directly to this actual agenda item. Thanks. Can you switch off your light, Angus?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jim. Very much wish to support this proposal. I recall in 2004, I think, I made such a proposal in this very chamber, and I got no support whatsoever for it. And the interesting thing about that at the time was that was the beginnings of discussions about creating schools elsewhere in Scotland, Gaelic schools elsewhere in Scotland. But for some reason, it was not supported here. And subsequent to my asking the question about whether we could have a Gaelic school in the Western Isles, the department did an analysis and spoke to large numbers of parents. And again, the parents weren't supportive then. And it's a question of, I think, you know, an idea having its time. And I certainly think it has its time now, because there's much, much more support for Gaelic schools now than ever there was, and I mean locally. And I'm very pleased that is the case. I would agree with my colleagues that it should be a separate, completely separate campus. I would like to think that it would not just be for native speakers, it would be for Gaelic learners as well. And I would like to think that Gaelic learners and the Gaelic native speakers could be taught in separate classes, because if they are taught together in the same class, the tendency is for the teacher to talk to the native speakers, and that's just a natural thing. And you want to keep them separate to give them the best advantage. The funding will have to come directly from the Scottish Government. This Scottish Government has shown itself to be supportive of Gaelic initiatives in the past. Certainly John Swinney has been very supportive, and during the brief time that I was the Chair of Education, I met him on a number of occasions, and he was always very supportive of Gaelic education. So I would think that he probably would support in the way that he has supported eSchool. I think that there might be two. For example, at the time when I was a teacher myself, there were 11 members of staff in the mathematics department. It was a big school. 8 of them were Gaelic speakers. There could have been mathematics taught through the medium of Gaelic, but it just wasn't the thing at the time. I mean, and I do appreciate that we're going to have to make sure that we find the teachers who can speak, can teach the medium of Gaelic, very important. I'm sure that will happen in time. I can see aspirations. I mean, once this initiative gets going and gets a bit of steam behind it, that people will realize that there's a future for, you know, I go and train as a teacher. There is a future for me in Gaelic teaching. So therefore, I will train for. At the moment, you're in a bit of a cleft stick. And it's for fortune rather than in determination that gets you to being in a Gaelic school, as they have in Glasgow and in Edinburgh. And the one final thing is there will be an advantage, and the one thing that I have been harping on about in this chamber ever since I've been in the Education Committee, and that is class sizes. It will mean that class sizes in the 2 schools that you now have instead of 1 will be reduced in size, I would hope. And that will be a huge advantage to our pupils in general. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Kenneth online, please.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, thanks. As I'm sure some of you might predict what I'm going to say here, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. Why are we looking at pouring money, resources, and time into building another new school when Castleby School is quite literally rotting? It's I don't know what to say. I'm shocked, frankly. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, right. It's a separate item in a way, but yeah.
Kan je een policy als je kiant is in op het tachert zo'n scholuur stegen aan Eilean Varach agus na is gese een agenda en je brengen er een huisbrasjo als je zo'n ranzige is policy Jeffrey.
Eilean, and the mic's on.
Sorry, but the gael tos ich mir ist. Gaan jullie een policy als ook geen een policy hang hoorle janting er dit list leed steer scholuur aan een Eilean waarheid ergens en in vis aan met haar voor tu hoorle is een project als je gaat dat jullie tussen Eilean en vibe. Als je ik niet raast is een waar ik taik rausige gejenu. Ergens als je has je waar ik nu is een genicate als je quality policy in de hoorle en plannen kan en galige hoorle. Agus fiachan nu da sin súlach a cearst is an an ágriaking as na Eilean agus na ma bheach cín ha cearst gan seo leanting orn is scrútach leis agus gan sinna cús knap stavis mi leanting le project ba chastoch cuideach.
Okay, thanks. Gordon's next. Thank you. Hang on, who's got a mic on? Switch mics off, please.
Again.
Third time lucky. No, there we go. Fourth time, fifth time. Lucky.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee. I want to welcome this feasibility study. I think it's an excellent way forward. I think the school itself, if successful, will be a trigger for economic development. And I note the consideration of the lack of teachers at the moment, but I think that, as has been said before, I think this will be a stimulus or a catalyst for more people to consider going into Gaelic teaching. And maybe we should look at enhancing the teacher training provision that's on the islands at the moment. And, you know, may I address what you had in your report, that I think it was 45% wanted to see the economic benefits of bilingualism to be promoted. So I think on the whole, it's an excellent project, and I wish it all the best.
Thanks, Gordon. John A's next. Switch off your mic there, please, Ray. Yep.
Tafel ni carach and you mean them vowing and committee. I mean, the thought you the nash show. I guess I mean now kind of the how the Herwickers. Yakum Hagra as a Namolian, a Gaelic secondary school in the Western Isles. They say you have to be here some news on the Herwickers on the Marai. Nach behoren be coalition at Gaelic gives an art school on the Henkuja.
Has je nog eens kan lach sin kan geniet lach as a rousig as a skudig mini joch as je sulig gat ha na moli in accounting a Gaelic school mar a hokshu as je sulig kre rousig tot sul garis art school Gaelic an Eilean in a year agus friestech de mar a oprichis sin Harris in Eilean in fat som kormen hort de scholarin Harris Elios na herich na huistin agus barai agus smaid hí sin dé hiike machchas a rásach sin a smaid go féim sin hier torsach í genu nágin an torsach agus nóir sin súlach mar a hit sin a liatach gemach go coins nach ganile. Cuideach firí a rásach sin scrútach corman agus éach í hacin mar ha for nóper ha íscolir a genu is an fasthuigan art corman de gáikrí ha giúí cúsper an fel tro vína Gaelic Harris in a Eilean. Gaan jullie naast geshow accounting behoren school of Ion en nachtjes en mias na Eilean in de rast hit sin ook al as a ransiger agus be korm hikke rasko beil smuanje had dit de maar gopriche sin en korma show hort de scholar in Harris in Eilean in a mi tukkel am hoike bij de kant me en show agus hit just en a ransiger agus vir bechker sin.
Okay, thanks, on Councillor McSween. Oh man, sorry, Ray. I've got you on the list here. Don't worry, you're on the list. Don't worry, mate. It's covered.
Tapel agus tíoch son ma haike hort gan nummer ta show. Just some point like a hokal ham swinket ni de match McCloud hort dan de wa bringen hoshok bringen punskol agus mar honliche rukig skide tu mooi ballers journey han je mismunker in naime han draast son quantry punskol Gaelic steoch kan an de journey gijar son we konart an noorschen gemich deunje ik jori in kuchlanje stach gan vales genodig schon buai evne en skiden duchol is gerut as jori genjastig sing na skolchen agus na koins noch kan tu mooi vale han amtjil van de joos ach torn hel aan de vat ach is maar goed maar mag kormik ne berhaje hamis menke wel biachken in goies nog Gaelic da harach na am hin port na Gaelic da will es shiachi konnechtjak chai fai noch go rumis mench u ik na helan in year an de skol Gaelic ik naimschen agus charmis mench gro ichar ach hamis menkel sinna da harach agus Riest maar hoe de gadam femi araket hun isteach van een realtas son kutjachig lesje show gaat je gador dat zijn is araket de varok agus we de noges na dikke araket de varok ga schön kum ik schöne kiologe kum ik in was a hacking maar ha kun kutjig schön le maar we gordiel waar ik araket dat zo'n laptop zo'n holte je stoken mi pakken waar ook araket down zo'n kutje le roter motion zo we de nog eens als ik hier daach kum bega kutje gol gaan Gaelic agus gaan coins nog knakken ach hou nog eens kum mi pon nog in Nederland kutje zo joch me lan haik kan show.
Thanks, Ray. No, it's not Ray. No, I was only joking.
I've forgotten what I was going to say. No, I agree with just about everything that's been said, and there's many positive things. I think there's a danger. One point I was going to make was there's a danger we're going to worry too much about capital and all the rest of it and revenue at this stage. This is purely a feasibility study. And it's not going to be a case of a new school 500 or 400 or 300, whatever, coming into the island and plonked in the island, and it's got to be a new Gaelic school. Presumably, the pupils that will be in this Gaelic school will come from the Nicholson. So there'll be a reduced number in that school. And that's just the point I wanted to make, that, you know, we're not going to get 500 pupils suddenly appearing from over the hill or on the ferry if the ferry's running. So I don't think that's a point that we should be concentrating on at this stage. And, you know, it's the least important part of a feasibility study.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Norrie, you wanted to come in? I saw you. I did see you there in the corner.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, bloody Gaelic speakers coming over here, taking our desks. One of the points I think that should be front and centre here is the saving of the Gaelic language and the plan to save the Gaelic language overall. And I think, you know, cracking Stornoway was my immediate concern would be for the future of Gaelic. We need to crack Stornoway. We've done a huge amount of work, particularly through GLIP. The progress that's been made in the primary schools within Laxdale, Stornoway Primary, etc., has been excellent. I attended 2 of the concerts, and the work that's been done there is pivotal to keeping the language alive, and not just out in the country. You know, round about Stornoway, the standard of Gaelic has been impressively, I think, backed up by Eilean and her team. So the work being done there is pivotal. But money, I think, is at the centre of everything, and we've spoken about this. We need a commitment from Scottish Government, you know, to the school and to the language itself. If we're going to have to incorporate this within our existing education budgets, we're going to find it difficult. So there has to be a commitment from Scottish Government, long term, over 10, 15, 20 years plus. Now that's going to be a revenue commitment. The capital commitment, I think maybe folk might balk at, providing a brand new school, which you wouldn't get for less than, I would suggest, £50 million. So I'm guessing there have been discussions about where the Gaelic school would be and where it could be situated. I would suggest, we're always talking about empty buildings. We're talking about the Comhairle here being particularly half full with office space, but we're looking at a college that is less than half full, an ideal campus to put a school into, I would suggest. And I think maybe you might be ahead of me on this ongoing dialogue to use the existing college campus as possibly a host for the new Gaelic school would be something that would be first and foremost in our discussions with Scottish Government. And I think it would work across a range of factors. So I don't know whether to suggested to you, you may well be ahead of me there. So I'm guessing that if we think outside the box, there's no need to spend £50 million on a brand new school where we've got existing campuses that are less than half empty, sorry, less than half full, should I say. So we could accommodate that within our existing education infrastructure. I'm guessing that'll be a starting point.
Mae Yosin taig for Eilean nu is on an Irish show. Agus mae Yosin taig garagit van a realtus is on a skrúdach for the skrúdach minute drachstech a goede dói for a go school of steerich. Agus bishin accountig tokkeli en semi nu garris en semi a has a goeiers nog maar ha a geitich sin klechkig is on school hoosig. So smijt kan er stech gejoch bjechker en go school tokkelig uur weer steerich ach bi goede in je kreetskre een nooie jaar dus je shik Larak agus klechkig garris en has a goeiers nog gaking maar ha agus frishin frir skrutig suulki er sin.
Okay, thanks. Vice Chair. Who's got?
Thanks very much, Chair. I think obviously Mr. MacLeod already said what I was going to say, but just I think the item agenda today we need to focus on the feasibility study. I've heard quite few people obviously mentioning about. I think Councillor Maxwell mentioned that there is support in the community, and we're talking about where do we put the school. Even the director here, the chief officer mentioned about. So I think we're in danger of prejudging the consultation order. So I think our role today is to agree that the consultation will go forward, and if there is support within the community to establish what Mr. MacLeod said, I think a facility to deliver Gaelic education in the Western Isles, be it in Stornoway, Harris, Eust or Barra, I think then we'll look at the details and we'll look at the funding and we'll look at how things will. So, but thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Next question. Councillor McInnes.
Gaan je met dan wel gaan we met die dag. En met tot tijd gemoord gaan we wallen zo zo'n weinstige jaren. Dus gehaald het ja vier jaar te vallen in de hoorle le Gaelic en Hoshach. Dus ik want te strategisch kortbaar hacking. Ze gemoord liatige de Gaelic dus de kormen hesse gooiens nog. Dus de hier weinstige we de januari de kistje we de goeinig kan Jogin jatter klassischen keert kosia va gas as dies kan hul tru de baun wat komode finchen fieme va schotele janu geisen agus kan in hatin von de noord hier has heste skosten komod we leipschen agus na de hasin kujuk gefinchen man ha konler dollar legalig is nationach agus man sin fesker dolingchen noorde sé de Januka haarheid le kormen ha le apprenticeship agus fi galige stechen agus am smanne hu hulekale loipegel agus fallen agus de kormen de fit bistige bejacht gel upliche naun geliad ja kujuk en se nooie wis klienwige sinne so gaanstof gekumat de deunjatje mag gefillante aan een Gaelic agus gemiekorment komoor verloip neun had je mag daar gaan nog agus a korme show ele agus minister agus ifenisket aan de lappe komoor tachtje agus ais komoor laten de wij estemianen het toort tachtje een show agus am smanne hug eleket dollar geniek eleket so realtus agus gemiad de graag go nach de hachas shomana konische makkar om grafisch en fiet blion schöne ver gan tischen jemin jo noch go nach je fichen in jata gatien es de belchen moore etjes moor agus an kries konstig begalig dat had ma show de hut gan lang agus sule miskere show apolatos agus reinsga show bet agoladord agus een woorden hikken dat ik het naar looi agus niet thuis kunnen kosten.
Okay, thanks, Duncan. Thanks a lot. So I'll bring this item to a close. I think we've spoken quite a bit about it. So the members agreed to the recommendations at 3.1. Right. So items 6 and 7 have to be taken in private, and so we'll move on to item 8, which is reports outstanding. So that's for noting, and we'll just want to say something. Yeah, we're just going to say something about item.
Ba ma ddíoch gyuri in the gro hiad poink ba sio yn Claras yn chanyu magierich so behoog sin weer hort yes en hasin jere en aiske sin hort kon kanju magierich gan a committee.
Okay, thanks. So if there's nothing else, Councillor Kenzie.
Yes, it's a very thin agenda, and I don't know why that should be. Maybe it's the time of year or whatever. Yeah. So, but I would have hoped there was something on progress, and I was going to ask, and I've spoken to Donald in advance about the situation at Stornoway Primary. Just the current progress, and
just very quick.
How often will it be reported to the committee?
Gan het niet en gaan je waar gemoor en je zegt groter op een committee als je gaan je maar jaren agus kujach charoas kitchen kan committee nu maar jeen en garis ik ben skills journal zo gelo rakin zo'n visser hort te veil tachert voor waar kan je maar jaren gakin ik ben college as hort gaan nach aan je gan een committee als je fit me at je rascal ketjalavi nis wie rein zo'n project als je niet je als je sint hier ruim nolak agus af ik er nog gewoon is het dollar project als je niet zullen gerast commission aan de zeker toshi jenne een oper chemical irrigation agus gemein hokelach jeshal jira gevleone ach beri sin ash kunnen nachan nu zo'n barach visser gemeen at
Okay, thanks. Who's that? Did the convener want to come in? No. Okay, that's great. Right. Okay, so we'll move into private, and